I am Johnny Massacre and welcome to the Johnny Massacre Show. This is the Tuesday Night Massacre. On tonight's show, a really cool game for the Sony PlayStation 5 is about to launch called Ghostwire Tokyo. We also take a look at one of my favourite franchises, House of the Dead, on Nintendo Switch. Who's fucking with me? Give me a hell yeah! So I've been talking about politics so much recently, I realise my channel's getting ridiculous. Most people donate because I talk about politics, but hey, here I am talking about video games, probably hurting my pocket because, hey, I'd rather go down broke and bankrupt talking about something I love than shilling and selling out just to make a few quid. So I want to talk about video games tonight, and there's a very cool looking game coming out called Ghostwire Tokyo. I'm thinking about starting a career as a gaming streamer, and I think this could be the title for me to do it. Let's have a look at this amazing looking game. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you think this should be the game to launch my game streaming career. Right, let's have a look. Ghostwire Tokyo, coming out 25th of March. Now, it looks like Ghostbusters set in Tokyo. Look, there's loads of ghosts and shit. Has like horror overtones. Has Japanese schoolgirls who are headless. Come on, that's got to intrigue you. Hello, I'm the game director, Kenji Kimura. And all of us at Tango Gameworks are very excited to give you a deeper look at the story and gameplay you'll experience in Ghostwire Tokyo. Now, the most impressive thing about this is how it looks like such an accurate depiction of Tokyo.
A supernatural action-adventure thriller set in an eerie, haunting vision of Tokyo, with explosive first-person combat and dangerous monsters at its core.
That looks cool.
All of Tokyo's population mysteriously vanishes. The city is flooded with supernatural creatures. Okay,
so now I just read a book called Day of the Triffids, and in that book, pretty much everybody dies. Everyone's blinded and everyone dies, and there's hardly anyone left. And the book is an imagination of what life would be like when everyone's dead and you somehow have to find a way to collect resources and survive. Apparently that book was a precursor to the zombie genre because the antagonists of that book are slow-moving plants that slowly but surely eventually overwhelm you. And that inspired the zombie genre and whatnot. And this game makes me think a little bit of that book, that everyone's fucked and you wake up and you're one of the only people who are all right, and now you've somehow got to try and save the day. So shout out to that retro sci-fi book, Day of the Triffids. Also, this kind of looks a little bit like Ghostbusters. You've got to go around hunting ghosts and getting rid of ghosts. I just wish there were proton packs in it and lasers and traps and stuff, but hey, I mean, it's still good that there's something resembling Ghostbusters, and in Tokyo of all places. Okay, so
our story begins here, in the fallout of the vanishing.
This is Shibuya. For some reason, they won't use the word Shibuya. Say it, say it. This is that crossing right there. That is the #1 tourist destination in the whole of Japan. What is the psychology of this? Why do people love this crossing so much? Is it because everyone wants to meet someone and be where the energy is, and you're just going to come into contact with loads of people you'd never normally come into contact with, and that somehow appeals to the human condition? I don't fucking know what it is, but that is Shibuya Crossing.
You awake in the deserted streets of Tokyo with an unknown voice inside your head and strange elemental powers coursing through your veins.
I reckon the kind of creatives who make this game, especially Japanese ones who are famous for slaving away and not sleeping, are probably putting their own mental illnesses into the game. You heard there that you hear voices in your head. I reckon the developers probably hear voices because of all the hours they put in obsessing over their creative projects like this. And that's a kind of tacit cry for help that you realize something's wrong. I hope the game developers of Ghostwire Tokyo are okay.
Possessed by a mysterious spirit named KK, who has his
KK, that's one K short of an abomination.
To unravel the truth behind the disappearances and save the city from this twisted nightmare.
So I've been to this place a million times. That is Shibuya Crossing.
Harness an arsenal of powerful abilities through a mystic art known as ethereal weaving, channeling raw ether,
so
such as wind, fire.
Okay, so ethereal weaving is using elements to kill people. Fire, water, wind, electricity, all that shit.
Master these abilities based on your play style.
And it looks all cool, especially when it's all glowing and it looks like Tron or some kind of synthwave music video.
Devastating effect.
See, this game, it uses that mechanic that loads of modern games use, where you have to time the blocks in order to get more powerful.
Alongside your abilities, you'll have a range of more traditional and mystical tools at your disposal.
Looks like Gambit from the X-Men throwing cards. This is Shibuya.
Are a central part of
The game really, it's mad. I've been in Japan 12 years and I still get excited by Tokyo City. I feel like a tourist wanting to visit, but I'm actually here. I guess I'm living the dream.
areas of dense fog not only harbor dark energy that drains your health,
Oh shit.
infested with deadly paranormal creatures.
That looks sick. I know this place as well. Man, this is so authentic to Tokyo.
Infected areas.
If you've never been to Tokyo and you can't afford it, especially with gas prices exploding due to Russia versus Ukraine in the precursor to World War III, it looks like this game could be the next best thing. Like, that looks exactly like Tokyo.
To upgrade your ethereal abilities. Throughout Tokyo, you'll discover strange distortions in reality known as Utena spaces, where time and space themselves cannot be trusted.
Dude, that looks really cool.
To complete your mission is to power through them.
Okay, so this is like the horror segment. That's influenced by the PT playable teaser game on PlayStation 4, I believe it was. Like one of the scariest game ever made that you can't get anymore because the developer fell out.
Pick up at a moment.
The company fell out with the main guy, Hideo Kojima, who was producing it.
Traditional weapons. Akito must track the spirit.
See, this looks exactly like a Japanese shrine. I mean, it is exactly what it's like. You've got Westerners trying to make authentic Japanese games, but I think you best leave it to the Japanese. If you want to know what it's really like walking around Japan, I'm telling you, this is so accurate. Now, like all these neon shapes and shit, I'm not sure how I feel about it, because it kind of seems like I want guns in this game and blood and gore and bones and shit. And it seems like the kind of neon effects is a little bit of a cop-out, a little bit lightweight. But maybe, I don't know, my brother always told me I judge things too much before actually playing the game. Maybe I should give it a chance, because I just read a book called Neuromancer by William Gibson. It's like the sci-fi book of all time. And in that, he talks about neon geometric patterns and shapes and thin shapes that kind of break into little flakes, like just like that. And I really like that book. So maybe I need to stop being judgmental, stop wanting to be a backseat driver and produce this game and just enjoy what they've made. What do you think about the elemental effects? Do you think that shit looks cool? Or would you like to see a little bit more blood and gore and stuff like that? So I'm going to fast forward this video on a little bit. You've seen what it's about. You wake up in Tokyo, a very authentic looking Tokyo, and most people are dead, and there's ghosts everywhere, and you have to go hunt the ghosts. There's fog, which signifies there's bad paranormal shit going on there, and there are these gates known as tori in Japanese that are possessed, and you have to purify the gates in order to get rid of them ghosts. The developers of this game kind of talk about how they made it, and I think this is quite interesting. So let's have a look at what the developers are saying, and I'm going to read the subtitles because it's all in Japanese. Let us have a look. Massacre Maze. Okay, so the developers are going to pitch up now. I'll do my best to read their names, but I know it comes and disappears really fast. Okay. God, yeah, that's Shibuya. That is Shibuya Crossing. What do you think of the graphics? Here are the developers. Shinji Mikami, founder. We got Kimura, director. Yanagi, music composer. Hirashima, character design. Fuji, environment design. Murakoshi, game designer. Okugawa, programmer. Let's see what they've got to say about their baby, their brainchild. Mikami says, this may be a difficult question to answer. If you had to describe Ghostwire Tokyo in one word, what would it be? This is kind of funny. Well, it's a little bit hard. Strawberry shortcake, says Murakoshi. What do you mean, says Mikami? Murakoshi says the strawberry shortcake was designed from the Hinomaru Rising Sun design, aka the Japanese flag. Was it? The origins of it are very Japanese. In a Japanese studio and a game set in Japan, it's a game where everyone can find something to love. Look, there's the Japanese Shiba Inu. So I thought this. So this game is being designed as a kind of love letter to Japanese culture. Japanese people are really proud of their culture. They're super interested in what foreigners think about them. And they're also super desperate to make sure foreigners have a good experience in Japan and come away and go home and have good things to say about it. So it seems like these developers knew this game is going to be a worldwide release, obviously. And it's as if they've composed it in order to show foreigners what Japan's really about. And it's not like some foreigner like me trying to explain to you, which has a lot of merit in itself because I'm not biased. But having a Japanese person explain what Japan is like is such a privilege because people pay good money to come to this country and they can't get inside the Japanese culture. They don't speak the language. They can't go to any like proper Japanese parties or proper underground Japanese bars or go to a proper Sakura cherry blossom party and really feel what it's all about and know what it's all about. But these Japanese people are going to give you a window into Japan and they're going to explain to you and illustrate exactly what Japanese culture is all about. So I think this game could be fucking awesome if you're interested in Japan. And if you really want to know what Japan's all about as presented and explained by Japanese people. So look, in this game, it's on Shibuya Crossing. They know all the tourists want to come there. The biggest Japanese tourist spot, and there's like the famous Shiba Inu, the Japanese dog. They're giving you all the best stuff of Japanese culture, and I love the way they're proud of their country. So Murikoshi's comparing the game to a strawberry cake, and he says there are some sweet and tangy parts, just like a strawberry shortcake. That's the image. And he actually said that deadpan serious, and the interviewer's like, okay, turn to the other guy. Says, can you describe the game in a single word? Hirashima, who I believe is the character designer, says, I think paranormal would be the word I would choose. Good, this means it could be like Ghostbusters. If I'm putting it in one phrase, it's authentic Tokyo, says Okugawa. See, this is what I said. It's Japanese people wanting to present Tokyo to foreigners so you understand their country, and they want foreigners to feel good about their country. They're really motivated, highly motivated to make you love their country. And I can't really say that for a lot of American game designers. Like, how many American game designers are thinking, man, I want other people to see how awesome American culture is. All I hear in America right now is like how terrible they think their own country is. So this is just like positive, right? Japanese people wanting you to love their country. And that motivation could make this game awesome. Fingers crossed. Fuji says, as far as world building, it's directed in a way that allows people... It is created realistically, and by doing so we can create a setting where unusual phenomena and paranormal enemies can really stand out. Kimura says the name of the game is Ghostwire, and this indicates something important. We use the elements of wires as an important part of the game. Kimura says you can use wires to fight your enemies in different ways, making the combat feel unique. We really wanted the actions to feel fun, so that's how we designed it. Mikami says Tango has mostly created horror games in the past, and this time it's an action-adventure game. How is it different in terms of sound production? I should know about this. I have a university degree in sound production. I'd like to hear about this. Please share. Yanagi says, if it's horror, then we stimulate the player's anxiety with high-pitched shrieks. And we choose sounds that give psychological effects, and this has been the majority. But with action-adventure, because we want them to feel heroic and challenge the bad guys, and also explore the game, I wanted to create sounds that inspire positivity in the player. This was our motive behind our sound choices. This game's a trip. So this guy's wearing, I believe, the devil mask. That's known as an Oni mask. Mikami, was there any music, movie, manga, or anything like that that influenced your work on Ghostwire Tokyo? Hiroshima says, my influences are from the old ukiyo-e woodblock prints. You know, the old images of yokai or ghosts. I love ukiyo-e. That is the old school Japanese prints. They look so fucking cool. I've got 2 fat, expensive books on that, full of those prints. I love that. See, just like I said, these people really love their own country and they really want to explain and present Japanese culture and history to you, so you love it and understand it. Japanese people curating Japan just for you, the foreigner. This is cool. Going right back to ukiyo-e. See, I love that just as much as the Japanese people do. I love the way Japanese people love their country. I love it. Kimura says Faust influenced the game. Fuji says Solaris. Okugawa says Clamps X Tokyo Babylon comics. What are these things? Kimura says Connie Willis's Passage. Is that a book? Yanagi says, I listen to quite a lot of traditional Japanese music. Again, harking back to old school Japan. Japanese music albums and a lot of No compositions. No is like really old school Japanese musicals. And inside the theatre, they have a huge temple ceiling. So it's specifically for this type of play known as No, N-O-H. It's spelt in English. And they have all these kind of whiny, warbly characters. The old man in the No plays is so annoying. He's great for 5 minutes. After that, it's annoying. He just goes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Apparently, even Japanese people don't understand No plays. But I went to see one after sleeping 2 hours, and mate, it was hard to deal with. But anyways, it does have cool imagery, and so that inspired Ghostwire Tokyo. Kimura says, lastly, Hideaki Senna's Brain Valley inspired the game. Mikami says, I don't read many books, so I had no idea what you were talking about in the last part. Come on, mate, you got to read. He's right, he's busy making games, isn't he? Okay, so this, I think you've got a pretty good impression of it. That's Ghostwire Tokyo, and that's coming out on 25th of March. It's just the combat looks a little bit when you see games combat in motion, you really see what the game is all about, and something about it looks a little bit too familiar to me, even though the combat's kind of novel, shooting magic out your fingers and stuff. It just looks like any other kind of FPS, just with a slight twist. But I'm happy to be proven wrong. I love Japan, even though I've lived here 12 years. I can't get enough of it, and so now I get to visit the place where I live, but with loads of ghosts in and stuff. If this feels like Ghostbusters, Japan plus Ghostbusters is 2 of my favorite things together. That could be great. It doesn't look like there's too much horror, and I'm kind of pleased with that because I'm a bit of a pussy when it comes to horror, but there are some nice horror elements, I think. So the only thing is, where's the 2-player, mate? I want some 2-player action in this game. Ghostwire Tokyo, what do you think of that? And to all my regular viewers who might just want the politics, what do you think of this show? Is it nice to have a little break? What about the older people who watch in their 60s and 70s? Are you, even people in their 60s and 70s play games? My mum is 70. She plays Xbox all the time. So I guess, what do you think of this if you're not a gamer? That's my question. If you're not, probably already unsubscribe. I'm Johnny Massacre, and if you're just joining us, we are talking about the upcoming Ghostwire Tokyo game. But if you've been watching from the beginning, stop your grinning and drop your linen, donate some cash, and let's keep winning. Streamlabs.com/Johnny Massacre. The more you donate, the more of these videos you are going to get. We got 23 days to go to make $1,489. Can we do it? Please click the link now and give generously. So finally for tonight, another video game. House of the Dead Remake is coming out for Nintendo Switch. Now, House of the Dead is one of my favorite games ever. Quite simply, it is a zombie game. You go through a house full of zombies and you shoot them all and they blow up and their brains come out and their hands fly off and stuff. And I remember when this shit came out. My best friend, if you're watching, I love you. You know who you are. He told me about this game. He goes, Johnny, have you played House of the Dead? I said, no, what's that? And he said, man, it's a game like Virtua Cop. There's another game with light guns in the arcade called Virtua Cop where you shoot criminals and they fly away and shit, and when you hit them, really overly exaggerated kind of death animations and stuff, which was awesome, really great fun. And he said, it's like Virtua Cop, but instead of criminals, you're shooting zombies. And when you shoot them, their body parts explode. You shoot them in the chest, a massive hole appears in their chest. Obviously, you're wielding a magnum. Good old maggers, bruv. You shoot the hand flies off. Shoot the head, bam, the head explodes. And it's green blood, and there's green blood spraying everywhere. and he just said it was awesome, and I played it and it blew me away. You got the typical haunted house. It looks like the haunted house in Amityville. What is it, with huge houses with the millions of rooms, old kind of ornate designs and crazy spiral staircases and weird hidden rooms behind bookcases. That's so good for horror games. Resident Evil had it as well, Biohazard, and House of the Dead also had the big kind of haunted house. And there's all these zombie experiments going on, and it was just such a sick game. You're always on your toes. There's always things like popping out of nowhere, popping out the cupboard, popping out the ceiling, popping out fucking everywhere, which was really exciting. Loads of jump scares in the game. And I love the green blood. I love the way specifically the blood was green, because it just looked cool and looked like real zombie blood. The sound effects were great. When the zombie kind of lunges at you and you're desperately trying to stop him hitting you, he goes like, oh. Sounds awesome. Loads of cool little strange eccentric characters and stuff. So that game was amazing, and it came out back in the day on Sega's ill-fated Sega Saturn console, which I had, and it was a bad conversion. The graphical horsepower of the Saturn was not really up to scratch, and so the game looked pretty shitty. And I think the game developer back then, which was an Australian developer known as Tantalus, they didn't do a very good job with kind of questionable hardware, and so it didn't have a good home version. But now it's coming out for the Nintendo Switch. It might finally be a good version. Now here's the thing. Apparently, light guns don't work with modern TVs. I've heard people say this all the time, and recently my mate said this. He's like, but mate, how are they going to have House of the Dead without light guns? And I was like, nah, mate. They must have fucking worked out. They've got AI that can create fucking supposedly vaccines for coronaviruses. They can make a fucking light gun work on a modern TV. But then I was reading online, and apparently you still can't use it. But then with Nintendo, there must be a fucking way, because even with the PlayStation pads, you can move them around and it moves the crosshair around. So if this is coming out on Switch, with the Switch controller, surely there's a harness to put it, surely there's some kind of like plastic shell they can make that looks like a gun, where you slot the controller in and then you just move it around and the screen knows where you're pointing. Surely that technology is there. And I looked online, and apparently there are a few kind of guns, like exactly what I'm talking about, where it looks like a gun and you slot the controller into it. Anyways, on the YouTube video showing this game, it looks like they're using a controller to move the crosshair around. And if that's the main way to play the game, count me out. I'm not fucking playing this. There's no way. So the question is whether or not there's going to be light guns, and they're a bit quiet about it, which makes me wonder if they know that's going to be bad for marketing, admitting there's no light gun. Let's just pray there's a light gun. Anyway, should we look at what this looks like? A kind of modern remix or reimagining of the House of the Dead game, because as I said, I love the original game, one of my favorites of all time. I also like the second one, House of the Dead 2, was fucking awesome. So hopefully this is going to look the part and be faithful to the original, and maybe even add something a little bit new. Let's see what it looks like. Okay.
Please, help! Everyone's getting killed!
Okay, I remember that cunt. He was a real bastard, this guy. Okay, that looks quite similar. Oh, this does actually look quite similar. The fun, fast-paced organ music. But now they got red blood. That kind of looked alright. And see, they even got the silly voiceover, the House of the Dead. They had that on the original. Everyone loved that because it sounded so silly. Oh. Everything. Okay, got a little post-credit scene and everything. So that actually looked better than I thought. The one thing maybe it's missing is the impact. I couldn't really tell because the music was going ham over the action. But the original one, when you shot them, the zombies would go like, ooh, 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 and bah, bah, bah. The sound effects were wicked, and it felt like ballistics, like exploding body parts, and you felt the impact. There's a lot of impact and gravity in the game. And it looked like that was missing a little bit there. But I'll wait and see what they do. The question is, are they going to use light guns? Does anyone out there, do any nerds know if you can use a light gun for the Nintendo Switch? Because without that, it's not worth playing. You can't move the joypad around the D-pad and move the crosshair, or move the analog stick and move the crosshair. That's not going to work. So there you go. Ghostwire Tokyo, new game coming out March 25th. Really excited about that. I might choose that as the game to start my game streaming career. What do you think? Should that be the one we kind of get me into the gaming streaming world with? Please let me know in the comments box below. And also House of the Dead, I believe that is coming. Well, I said at the end there, that is coming. Let's have a look. I don't actually fucking know, but it's in April and it's going to be very soon. I have been Johnny Massacre, and I tell you what, mate, you better be back for the next episode. Otherwise, I'll be coming around your house. Please make sure to like and subscribe. And hit that notification bell, because that is what all those other cunts tell you to do. Laters.